Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm back again with another video. This time there's no learning about community sector. I'm doing something different this time. A lot of my friends and students have been asking about some tips on language tests, and I myself have given IELTS twice, and today in this video I'd specifically be talking about IELTS speaking tips. So I would share my score, I'd share the cue card topics that I got in my test, and in the end I'll talk about some tips and tricks that might be of use. Now, before we begin, I'm not a language expert, so please don't judge. I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience, and it might be of some use to some of you. So, this is just all personal experience and all the knowledge that I've gained after giving the test and the mistakes I've made, which I think if I would share, then you can avoid. All right, so let's get started. In the beginning, let's just talk about what IELTS exam is. Now, as you know, IELTS speaking test is not going to be assessed by a computer. There's actually going to be a human being who's your examiner who will be taking the test with you face to face. So this is basically an interactive test, and you are going to have a dialogue or a conversation with a human being. So in this test, you have three parts. I will talk about the format first and will give you an overview of what the test looks like. Now, it's very important that before you go for your exam, you familiarize yourself with the format, because that helps you structuring your answers. It just prepares you well that when you know in advance that this is how the exam is going to look like. The whole test is going to be for roughly 12 to 15 minutes, and it has three parts. Alright, so the format goes like that. The test will have three parts, and it will begin with part A. First part starts with your name and your ID check, and that's where the examiner would introduce him or herself and ask for your introduction and confirm your identity as well. So this is where they may ask, what is your name? Can I have your ID please? Do not try to have a conversation at this point. Simply tell the examiner your name. Please tell your name in a sentence. Don't just say Neha. Try to say my name is Neha, and then hand over your ID. There will be general questions around familiar topics in this part. For example, about your family, your home, study, work, and hobbies. That's where you have to give some elaborative responses. Try not to give a one-word response here. If you just simply say, I don't study or I work, the examiner will be prompt to ask you more questions. So speak naturally and provide an elaborative response in part A. Then comes part B, where examiner will give you a task card, or sometimes we call it cue card, which asks you to talk about a specific topic. Now this topic will have specific three questions which you need to include when you're answering the question. You're given 1 minute to prepare and write notes as well, which I will show you how to do soon. And then you will be asked to talk about the topic. During this time, you will not be interrupted. So keep talking. Don't stop at any point. When the examiner intervenes and stops you, that's totally fine, perfectly normal. So don't be scared that the examiner stopped you in the middle. Then the last part, which is the final part of the test, is part C. Now this is where you're asked further questions which are related to your part B. Here you would be expected to provide specific responses. It could be about your opinions, your ideas, after your general discussion of the topic in part B. Now this may take roughly 2-3 minutes, and overall the whole test would have roughly 12 to 15 minutes duration. Alright, now let me give you some specific tips for your cue card. You are given 1 minute, and it's very important that you use this 1 minute well. Don't be overconfident and make no notes thinking you can speak just like that. Remember, If you would have some notes, then your response will be better structured and you would also cover the time well. So use this 1 minute properly to make some notes. Don't be in a rush to provide your response. I know you want to speak as soon as the examiner stops and gives you the topic, but take a minute to understand the question well. Otherwise, your response will be inaccurate. Now, if you think you're more comfortable talking about last question than the first two questions, then do that. You do not have to give equal answers for all three questions. Remember that these dot point questions are only given to you to guide your response. You don't actually have to address all of these questions equally. Last but not the least, make dot points. You do need dot points. You may think you don't, but actually these are very helpful. So when you are given this time, make some dot points. It will help you to speak for at least 1.5 minutes. Now I will show you how I would use a minute to make some dot points. All right, now it's time for some final tips. Now, my first tip is going to be as real and authentic as you can be. Now, I know that a lot of us pretend, they always say fake it till you make it, and a lot of us pretend to be something which we are not. Let's just admit and acknowledge that English is not our first language. It is not even second language for many of us. It is in fact the third language for most of us. So knowing that, they already have that expectation from us that there will be words which we would not be pronouncing as the native speakers. So don't worry about it and just speak in your natural flow. Don't try to fake an accent. Don't try to speak in a manner which is very unreal, because they are going to catch it and they are assessing a lot of people in a day, so it will be very easy to pick that up. So I would say try not to pretend. I know it's a saying that fake it till you make it, but I'd say try not to pretend and be as genuine and as authentic as you can. It's okay to speak in our natural flow. It's okay to use our own country accent. If I'm an Indian, obviously I will be speaking in an Indian accent. I would not get a Britisher's accent. I would not get a American accent all of a sudden. So that is totally fine. My second tip is don't memorize your answers. When you get a topic, a lot of students have a habit of go through a lot of different topics and they would cram some answers. Now, cramming is not going to help you, because when you are going to give your answer, you would start fumbling. You'd say, uh, mm, or thinking through the awkward pauses. So try not to memorize your answers. Instead of memorizing the whole topic, I would say if you want to have some sort of sentences or phrases or some idioms, you can learn those and you can use those wisely here and there. For example, that's a given, or some sort of other idioms which you're comfortable using. But at the same time, avoid using it if you're not sure about the meaning of it, or if you don't know how to put it in a certain context. So don't make things overly complicated for you. Third tip is going to be do not use a very high fi vocabulary. Keep it simple. Keep your language as simple as you can. Speak as clearly as you can. Remember, the IELTS speaking test is to examine whether you are able to have some ideas, process those, and then express those ideas with clarity. They are not going to see what is the quality of your content. They're not going to assess what kind of answers you're giving to the topic. They're only going to assess how well you can communicate and how well you can hold on a conversation. That's it. So don't worry about using some very complex vocabulary or high vocabulary to impress your examiner, because that won't do anything. My last tip is, okay, what is my last tip? Okay, my last tip is, if you do not answer, I think I already covered that. If you don't understand the question, you need to ask. My last tip would be just relax and be as natural as you can. Practice at home, practice with another friend, practice in front of the mirror, and try to get rid of the hesitation. It is just as much as a interactive session as you would have with a mentor or your supervisor or your boss or someone who's senior. It's just that it's not a very informal interactions. It is not very formal either, but it's somewhere in the middle. So all you have to do is get rid of that hesitation which you may have, and you're good to go. um, I hope these tips were useful for you, and I hope that this will help you get your desired score. If you watched till now, thank you for that, and thank you for checking out this video. If you find this video useful, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Thank you.